As Marshal of the University, it is my honor to declare open the proceedings of the 518th Convocation of the University of Chicago and to introduce the university's 13th president, Robert J. Zimmer. Please be seated.
Good afternoon and welcome. As the Marshal has just announced, today's ceremony is the 518th time that the University of Chicago has assembled for a convocation. From the time that classes began here in the fall of 1892, the university has held a convocation ceremony at the end of every quarter, allowing students to be recognized and celebrated for their achievements immediately upon completion of their studies, and to do so through formal exercises just as we do today. The primary purpose of convocation is, of course, to award degrees, but these occasions satisfy other important objectives as well. At convocation number 1, on January 2nd, 1893, the university's first president, William Rainey Harper, set out goals for these ceremonies, goals which 121 years later we continue to observe. Harper believed these occasions of high ceremony to be a necessary and nourishing part of the life of a university, and intended these convocations to literally call together or cause to assemble all parts of the university community. In Harper's words, convocations are meant to bind together into a unity the many complex and diverging forms of activity which constitute our university's life and work. Today's ceremony, then, is also about reflecting upon the whole of what we do across the many libraries, laboratories, and classrooms that make up our campus. And in addition, it affords us all a moment to reflect upon the accomplishments of our past and the opportunities for our future, individually, collectively, and institutionally. I confer the degrees awarded this afternoon by authority delegated to me by the university's Board of Trustees, represented today by Trustee Mary Lugorno, and I do so on behalf of the faculty of the University of Chicago that has responsibility for the educational programs recently completed. I welcome you again to the 518th Convocation, a time-honored ritual that recognizes achievements of which we can all be proud.
As Provost of the University of Chicago, it is my pleasure to introduce Adam Green, who will deliver today's convocation address. Professor Green has profoundly influenced the University of Chicago as an incisive scholar of African American history, urban history, and cultural studies, as a gifted teacher, and as a university leader. He is Associate Professor in the Department of History in the college and serves as Master of the Social Sciences Collegiate Division and Deputy Dean of the division. Professor Green is the author of Selling the Race, Culture and Community in Black Chicago, 1940-1955, and co-editor with Charles Payne of Time Longer Than Rope, Studies in African American Activism, 1850 to 1950. Some of the students here today may know of Professor Green for his popular courses on urban history in Black Chicago. Adam, in fact, began his academic career at the University of Chicago, earning his bachelor's degree in history in 1985 and beginning his study of 20th century Black history and culture in Chicago. His work, particularly Selling the Race, has significantly changed the scope and depth of scholarship on Black history, as well as cultural policy and decision-making. Prior to joining the University of Chicago faculty in 2007, Professor Green taught at Northwestern University and New York University. He earned his PhD in history from Yale University. He is noted for his compelling presentations on his research and on university issues at conferences, on campus, and in the Chicago community. Adam.
Provost Rosenbaum, President Zimmer, officers and trustee, esteemed colleagues, I give thanks for the special honor you extend in allowing me to give this address. To family members and friends gathered today, I join in your joy upon seeing hope and care offered over lifetimes come to fruition in the celebration of achievement by your loved ones. And most importantly, to the graduates of the University of Chicago, we warmly salute you. Through your perseverance and intelligence, you distinguish yourselves even as you commend and renew this institution, as graduates have done during each and every commencement conducted here. We are, in a word, happy to recognize and to affirm your accomplishments. Yet a moment's contemplation leads, inevitably, since this is the University of Chicago, to deeper inquiry, revealing that employing this word to characterize our shared feeling can raise challenging questions, even as it captures the mood of the occasion. When I observe that we are happy for you, do I recognize a shared state or an intimate and thus non-transferable sense of being? Do I speak of an indulgent feeling of pleasure, or rather an achieved fulfillment bearing witness to high character and honorable endeavor? Should I congratulate you for your culmination of great and good intentions, or should we each thank our lucky stars to be gifted this measure of joy within lives of trial and pain? These queries recall several of the main controversies regarding what it means to be happy and whether we should direct our lives towards achieving it. Difficult to define, happiness has, of late, been revived as a topic of research and as a growing preoccupation of policy around the world. Studies of the psychology of happiness, for example, have significantly advanced over a generation, proposing modifiable set points for indexing wellness, advocating the social value of empathy and belonging, and establishing a new disciplinary direction of positive psychology. Research in behavioral and social economics has focused on correlation of happiness to levels of income or assets. Here, many leading scholars have argued that increases in living standards enhance overall satisfaction and bolster capacity for investment, risk-taking, and human capital more generally. Yet other economists caution that while panel data ranging from the General Social Survey to the World Values Survey affirm these conclusions, the depth and breadth of public happiness varies widely from country to country. In some cases, nations with low indices of human development, such as Nigeria, generate levels of satisfaction comparable to countries with higher indices of human development, like France or Japan. This paradoxical inversion has led some to decry a hedonic treadmill endemic to highly capitalized societies that foments insecurity and misanthropy as more and more wealth is generated. Philosophy, of course, has kept up concern with the question of happiness dating back to the advent of Western moral inquiry. The Aristotelian proposition that personal wellness signaled the achievement of a balanced, cultivated, and virtuous soul remains the strongest challenge to the modern common sense that happiness derived from a materially determined condition, rooted in the utilitarian calculus of maximizing pleasure and minimizing pain. Revivals of this idea over time in the work of writers ranging from the Stoics to the Epicureans to Montaigne have, in turn, inspired renewed interest among contemporary scholars in eudaimonic well-being. Turning to my own field of U.S. history, and specifically African-American history, there is relatively little attention to these findings and to the larger question of happiness as either condition or endeavor. At first glance, this might be explained by referencing the challenges of researching such a topic through the archives. Source bases revealing measurable levels of personal and collective satisfaction over time, prior to the advent of large-scale panel data, are virtually non-existent. Yet, freedom and justice, to consider two terms that, like happiness, defy easy definition, have driven historical research in the U.S. for generations. One might see the attractions of happiness as too furtive for a restless, enterprising nation, or too far-fetched for marginal groups, such as African Americans, given how structured inequality might render well-being rather elusive. Consider, for example, The second autobiography of Frederick Douglass, titled My Bondage and My Freedom, and written in 1855. Late in that book, after Douglass describes achieving manhood during slavery and freedom by escaping from it, he declined friends' requests to precisely describe his mature state of mind after the passage from bondage to freedom. It was, Douglass observed, a condition too intense and too rapid for words. Anguish and grief, Douglass continued, like darkness and rain, may be described, but joy and gladness, like the rainbow of promise, defy alike the pen and pencil. A moment's reflection upon the tradition of African-American writing, from Douglass to Richard Wright, Langston Hughes, James Baldwin, Toni Morrison, underscore the challenge of evoking the balance, security, and satisfaction we generally associate with happiness, as seen through these writers' archetypal characters. There is another explanation, more disturbing, for the difficulty in considering African Americans' relation to happiness. For many, happiness proves suspect as a characterization of Black life, precisely because it was seen to constitute affirmation of slavery as a way of life. Following the lead of thinkers ascendant before the Civil War, early 20th century historians revived the benevolent image of the plantation. This argument, dominant among historians at the time, gained special authority through the work of Ulrich Phillips, professor of history at Tulane, Michigan, and ultimately Yale University. His 1918 book, American Negro Slavery, drew on meticulous surveys of planters' records to argue that, however inefficient a system of production, slavery constituted a legitimate, indeed optimal, social compact between the races, a school of civilization, to use Phillips' words, and thus a system affirming the benevolence of the superordinate master, as well as presuming contentment among blacks faced with their historical degradation. This argument underpinned what could be called the myth of the happy slave, a potent idea in early 20th century America, which not only drove historical thinking, but also rules of representation on stage and screen, and a deeper mortgage of nation to racial paternalism as an enduring code of public and private administration. In short, the ideas of Phillips and others proved no small factor in setting a course for American race relations until some years past World War II. While the social consequences of disenfranchisement or economic inequality are well understood today, the capacity to demean self as well as soul due to color, widespread for decades into the 20th century, is frequently overlooked. This is a striking oversight given how the notion of the happy slave drew authority from what can be counted as high intelligence in its day, as well as general ignorance. Here, I submit, it is worth pausing as we celebrate individual academic achievement alongside the inherent value of our university and universities generally, to remind ourselves of the responsibility to be mindful of the effects of scholarship and the motives for it. Accomplished and celebrated research can yield deeply adverse social consequences when thought conspires with ascendant yet suspect values in a given time and place. The claims of a revived plantation ethos, thankfully, have been overturned. Beginning in the 1950s, other scholars turned to records drawn from slaves themselves to provide a different and disconcerting portrait of slavery that still stands today. Not surprisingly, though, attention to African American happiness was increasingly seen as suspect, given its presumed collusion with the most objectionable system of racial domination. And this position, in turn, discouraged sustained inquiry into the basic well-being, as opposed to adjustment or assimilation, of African Americans within our society up to the present day. This constitutes a complex and challenging phenomena which I believe Black thinkers and writers bear no small responsibility to work through. It remains critical also, though, to coax the recent boom in scholarship on happiness along these more subjective lines. For to continue to investigate happiness along undifferentiated norms of human being unwittingly imposes a second segregation, that of lives from ethical endeavor, which in turn deepens a demoralization that, I maintain, serves as root to many forms of racial alienation disparity, and discord. I hope you forgive me for considering your joy today, then, alongside the challenge of better discerning what happiness may mean for others, for instance, who reside close to our campus, but who are not now, not yet, with us. I view this as a challenging and worthy project, but I'm early in my work in it. So instead of providing what would prove an incomplete outline today, allow me to close by proposing two ways in which the happiness I seek to describe through my research might correlate with your experiences today. One of the more striking findings relating to the psychology of happiness concerns its relationship to contemplating the future. This capacity, called prospection, derives from the activity of the frontal lobe of the brain and initiates several singularly human behaviors: daydreaming, fantasizing, long-term planning, and so forth. It is hard to imagine any of you completing your studies and preparing for the next segment of your lives without well-developed powers of prospection. Indeed, if your minds are wandering right now, quite likely it is due to your capacity to envision affirmatively what the future may bring your way. It is a great day, in no small part because this day opens the door, first within your mind, for greater days still to come. I would argue that prospection has important applications to African Americans historically, as people who have faced more difficult days than you or I do today. It is important first because the ability to project oneself in the future is clearly essential to creating the conditions for social and emotional improvement. In other words, for progress. But it is also crucial to retaining a viable sense of self in the face of a depreciated present or a discredited past. To the extent that prospection comprises one of the capacities that makes us most human, it would seem incumbent to consider how that capacity manifests among those for whom the future offered the best, and sometimes the only, means to imagine a better existence. Second, consider one of the questions I posed earlier concerning happiness. Can we, and ought we to, share in it, or should we view it as something best enjoyed by oneself? At first glance, this hardly seems a fair argument. Throughout any given day, we take pleasure in sharing our bounty with others, as, of course, we are doing today. Further reflection, though, might recall the challenges of emotionally coordinating one's sense of bounty with those of others. Behavioral economists, for example, count marriage among the most robust covariables in predicting personal happiness. If this is so, how then do we account for marriage's susceptibility to conflict and even failure, as often brought on by disagreements over each other's pleasures as by individual or shared adversities? Given these circumstances, happiness demands hard work, trust, and a generous spirit in order to prevail, whether as an interpersonal state or as an individual aspiration. It requires a strong sense of reciprocity simply to emerge, and certainly to endure. Although we might presume it at first serendipitous, seen by these lights, happiness takes on intentionality as well as tangible substance. Here, too, I see important ways to tie happiness back to the historical experience of African Americans. For in the case of a people with strong co-identification, what political scientists call linked fate, the imperative of reciprocity underscores the value of recognition to gaining and sustaining happiness. The concept of human dignity, that individuals and groups seek and wherever possible enjoy an inalienable stature relative to one another, regardless of differences in origin or circumstance, seems especially apt here. And dignity also seems worth acknowledging as a component of your own happiness today. Your achievement in successfully closing your studies was enabled by the recognition you have given to and gained from others, as well as through your personal ability. A similar enactment of moral mutual stature is embodied in our faculty assembly, seated behind me on the bema of this chapel, and meant to honor you. Distinct individuals gather here, representing different disciplines and training. Yet each of us is committed to constant, forthright affirmation of our intellectual society, regardless of individual origin or circumstance. Maintaining this sort of community can be a struggle, not unlike maintaining a good marriage. But it is worth it, for it inspires a compelling sense of future and leads us towards a shared state of regard. In other words, it provides a happiness we can all share in together. We part, many of us, from one another after today. It is my hope that you carry with you your joy, along with the ideals and capacities enabling it, so that you might continue to live happily, hopefully, wisely, and well. Congratulations again, and warm wishes for your future endeavors.
As we begin the presentation of degrees, may I call your attention to the award of honors listed in the convocation program, as well as the names of candidates receiving degrees today in absentia. At this time, in the favoring presence of the congregation here assembled, the deans of several faculties or their appointed representatives will present the candidates for academic degrees to the president of the university. The associate dean of the college will now present candidates for the degree of Bachelor of Arts or Bachelor of Science in programs in the college.
Mr. President, these students have completed the prescribed program of undergraduate studies. On behalf of the faculty in the college, I have the honor to present them as candidates for the degree of Bachelor of Arts or Bachelor of Science.
By virtue of the authority delegated to me, I confer upon you the degree of Bachelor of Arts or Bachelor of Science, and welcome you to the Fellowship of Educated Men and Women.
David Body. Maritza Goyen Ibocha. Mark Ellis Brown. Maria Ruth Brown Jackson. Morgan Nicole Clark. Dylan Byron Robert Corey. Jennifer Dew. Maggie Patricia Eli. Kyun Yun Jo. Anne Claire Jones. Sophie Ann Koenig. Jamie Lauren Kalis. Sophia Kahn. Robert Henry Kramer. Nina Su Ting Kwan. Emily Margaret Lackman. Yuan Ying Christy Lai. Jonathan Thomas Maynard. Christian Leigh Nielsen. Sean Gregory O'Berry. Christina Elizabeth Pillsbury. Sanjay Matthews Prakadan. Fabiola Salazar. Mary Ann Hahnemann Schoenbach. Yang Chen Zhu.
Mr. President, I have the honor of presenting two student marshals in the class of 2014, appointed for their excellent records in academic studies and their contributions to the university and its community. They have served with distinction as student marshals. Morton Daniel Bloomfield. Alice Lily Yee.
The Dean of the William B. and Catherine V. Graham School of Continuing Liberal and Professional Studies will now present a candidate for the degree of Master of Liberal Arts in Programs in the Graham School.
Mr. President, this student has completed the program of studies prescribed by the faculty of the William B. and Catherine V. Graham School of Continuing Liberal and Professional Studies. I have the honor to present him as a candidate for the degree of Master of Liberal Arts. You have successfully completed a program of advanced study in the liberal arts, and by virtue of the authority delegated to me, I confer upon you the degree of Master of Liberal Arts. And I express the hope that your learning will lead you to advance knowledge in or enrich the practice of your chosen field. Derek Michael Christensen.
The Dean of the Division of the Biological Sciences will now present candidates for the degree of Doctor of Philosophy in programs in the Division of the Biological Sciences and the Pritzker School of Medicine.
Mr. President, each of the students I now present has attained scholarly distinction in advanced studies and has prepared a dissertation that contributes to knowledge in a particular field of research. On behalf of the faculty of the Division of the Biological Sciences and the Pritzker School of Medicine, I have the honor to present them as candidates for the degree of Doctor of Philosophy.
By virtue of the authority delegated to me, I confer upon you the degree of Doctor of Philosophy and welcome you to this ancient and honorable company of scholars.
Joseph Santo Briguglio. Matthew Michael Chopek. Paul Grabowski. Sophie Julia McCoy. Xiaomai Nguyen Mao. Megan Christine Sullivan.
The Deputy Dean of the Division of the Humanities will now present candidates for the degrees of Master of Arts and Doctor of Philosophy in programs in the Division of the Humanities.
Mr. President, these students have completed the program of studies prescribed by the faculty of the Division of the Humanities and the special programs approved by their departments. I now have the honor to present them as candidates for the degree of Master of Arts.
You have successfully completed a program of advanced study in the humanities, and by virtue of the authority delegated to me, I confer upon you the degree of Master of Arts, and I express the hope that your learning will lead you to advanced knowledge in or enrich the practice of your chosen field.
Carl Johann Hacken. Andrew Joseph Horn. Raphael Ung. Mr. President, each of the students I now present has attained scholarly distinction in advanced studies and has prepared a dissertation that contributes to knowledge in a particular field of research. On behalf of the faculty of the Division of the Humanities, I have the honor to present them as candidates for the degree of Doctor of Philosophy.
By virtue of the authority delegated to me, I confer upon you the degree of Doctor of Philosophy, and welcome you to this ancient and honorable company of scholars.
Hyunri Cho. Igor Olanda de Souza. Michael Frank Pope. Foy David Scalf.
The Dean of the Division of the Physical Sciences will now present candidates for the degrees of Master of Science and Doctor of Philosophy in programs in the Division of the Physical Sciences.
Mr. President, these students have completed the program of studies prescribed by the faculty of the Division of the Physical Sciences and the special programs approved by their departments. I have the honor to present them as candidates for the degree of Master of Science.
You have successfully completed a program of advanced study in the physical sciences, and by virtue of the authority delegated to me, I confer upon you the degree of Master of Science, and I express the hope that your learning will lead you to advanced knowledge in or enrich the practice of your chosen field.
Amy Ava Chu. Joshua Brandon Elkins. Nicholas Ryan Fleece. Varun Kaushal. Petrus Kupras. Young Min Ma. F. Andrew Powell. Ronald Omar Rahman. Julie Solomon. Hang Shun. Yiqing Xu. Mr. President, each of the students I now present has attained scholarly distinction in advanced studies and has prepared a dissertation that contributes to knowledge in a particular field of research. On behalf of the faculty of the Division of the Physical Sciences, I now have the honor to present them as candidates for the degree of Doctor of Philosophy.
By virtue of the authority delegated to me, I confer upon you the degree of Doctor of Philosophy and welcome you to this ancient and honorable company of scholars.
Kathleen Dang Kao. Peter Jeremy Sherpels. Chen Chen Tong. Li Young.
The Dean of the Division of the Social Sciences will now present candidates for the degrees of Master of Arts and Doctor of Philosophy in programs in the Division of the Social Sciences.
Mr. President, these students have completed the program of studies prescribed by the faculty of the Division of the Social Sciences and the special programs approved by the departments. I have the honor to present them as candidates for the degree of Master of Arts.
You have successfully completed a program of advanced study in the social sciences, and by virtue of the authority delegated to me, I confer upon you the degree of Master of Arts, and I express the hope that your learning will lead you to advanced knowledge in or enrich the practice of your chosen field.
Allison Catherine Baldwin. Austin Mitchell Kramer. Mr. President, each of the students I now present has attained scholarly distinction in advanced studies and has prepared a dissertation that contributes to knowledge in a particular field of research. On behalf of the faculty of the Division of the Social Sciences, I now have the honor to present them as candidates for the degree of Doctor of Philosophy.
By virtue of the authority delegated to me, I confer upon you the degree of Doctor of Philosophy and welcome you to this ancient and honorable company of scholars.
Kathleen Yang Clayton. Rachel Natalie Feinmark. Toussaint Lossier. Susan Heather Rosato. Emily Lockett Swafford. Eiko Tsushida.
The Dean of the University of Chicago Booth School of Business will now present candidates for the degree of Master of Business Administration in programs in the University of Chicago Booth School of Business.
Mr. President, these students have completed the program of professional studies prescribed by the faculty of the University of Chicago Booth School of Business. I now have the honor to present them as candidates for the degree of Master of Business Administration.
By virtue of the authority delegated to me, I confer upon you the degree of Master of Business Administration, and I express the hope that your work will further wise choices in the allocation of economic resources for the benefit of all people.
Brendan Aaron. Adebanji Patrick Adekoya. Amala Arasu Adekaladas. Anil Kumar Alapati. Andrew Scott Alexander. Ichendu Obinwa Terence Amako. Supasit Ampormpanga. Cyril Anarella. Suraj Vedikat Arakil. James Francis Avalon. Maya Azuoa. Julie Michelle Barr. Ramuti Balasubramaniam. Karthik Balasubramaniam. Reed Andrew Barley. Justin Lee Beltram. Alexei Belyakov. Paolo Luigi Benedict. Bonnie Ann Benjamin. Stephanie Baranek. Claudio Antonio Bertelli. Georgios Andrea Bertos. Gaurav Kumar Bagi. Pooja Bhatia. Jean-Philippe Blais. John Byron Blevins. Theodore Nicholas Bokidis. John Ryan Boots. Olivier Boutea. Nicholas Tyler Brown. Timothy Robert Bruce. Matios Abuyo. Donald Martin Carley. Kevin Daniel Carroll. Surey Chagradev. Spencer C. Chang. Nicholas Chosin. David Cheng. Yatsu Cheng. Peter Kent Chesney. Kiran Seshadri Chidambaram. Fina Chong. Tien Yao Chong. Kei Liang Chua. Chi Peng Chong. Wan Uk Chong. Stella Clark. Philip Edward Cohen. Catherine Alice Crossley. Moez Dalal. Samrat Dani. Jeffrey Brian Dennis. Jeffrey Price Detweiler. Sergei Dmitriev. Stefan Dobler. Marcus Andre Dodd. Jonathan Andrew Dominy. Bartłomiej Adam Daczynski. Stefan Dibski. Lars Christian Friedrich Eckley. Evgenia Efimova. Hatam Sharif Elazawi. Nadezhda Ermakova. Joseph Yutundi Fabusiwa. Matt Ferguson. Mark Edward Flanagan. Parviz Farujian. Jennifer Lynn Foner. Alex Reddy Freeman. Christian Freibauer. Thomas Friedrich. Justin Gregory Funk. Girish Sadanan Gaunkar. Alexandra Garstecki. Nicholas Boris Giza. Julian Evan Goldstein. Jesse Charles Graham. Gustav Granchalek. Julian Joseph Grange. Mark Allen Grievous. Shanti Gudavali, Gashri Gunasakira, Ashish Gupta, Fazal Gupta, Andy Jacob Ha, James Vickers Lau Harding, Ryan James Heyman, Braden Kale Heckman, Ryan Michael Hurdle, Andrew Hagashi, Adam Ross Holdorf, Ludovic Elan Min Humbert, Mohammed Abdulghaffar Hussein, Masaki Ikeda, Alexei Marksevich Ivanov, Sergei Ivanov, Sergei Ivanov, Michael Jacobson, Syed Muhammad Ali Jaffrey, James Janaga, Manesh Manohardis Jethmal, Richard Dean Johnson, Hisa Sophia Judies, Praveen Chandran Karatil, Syed Kashif, Sean Christopher Kelly, Sunit Khanna, Luisa Kitaravili, Michael C. M. King, Garrison Lewis Klein, Yao Lu Ko, Nikolai Ivanov Kolev, Andrei I. Kolosovsky, Christopher Wayne Koopmans, Dennis Koshkin, Andrew Paul Kupsko, Stephanie Marie Costa, Katie Laz, Jayanta Lal, Ranidia Lehman, Julian Lavalley, Keshav Lewis, Rosie Lim, Yencho Leo, Ravashankar Reddy Malareddy, Beatrice Malo Sarisa, Nitin Valapol Manoharan, Mikhail Markov, John Douglas Marshall, Adrian Christoph Mazenauer, Michael McDonald, Jennifer M. McManus, Stephen Burton McNamara, Monica Avanish Mahotra, Michael Reed Merrill, Gustavo Milan, Byung Do Min, Horacio Eduardo Miranda Ortiz, Derek Allen Mitchell, Amish Modi, Imran A. Mohammed, Shane Mohan, Tamibro Mulgar, Amanda Lee Morman, Aditya Mopuri, Paul Milton Morsbach, Garaki Umpurutsa, Avishek Mukherjee, Michael Joseph Mullins, Oliver Monk, Mark William Murray, Subramanyam Shivarama Musti, Ekaterina Muzika, Midori Nagano, Sudarshan Narasimhan, Piers David Nash, Jeffrey Arthur Nelson, Ravakumar Namalakanti Naga Venkata Hanumath, Donla Brigid Nick Garot, Koski Nohara, Haney Ikram Noshi, Obiora Collins Okoye, Nolan Patrick O'Neill, Elizabeth A. Ori, Jeffrey Orland, Paul Kevin Owens, Yiching Pan, Avinash Pandey, Suraj Utamro Patil, Bamashish Paul, Christopher Pearson, Sean Robert Pergand, Daryl Lewis Peterson, Manas Chandrakant Pagki, Pavel Popov, Kalpana Punakoli, Jem Pusagiolu, Ali Baga Rod, Balakumar Raghuthaman, Alexei Rotnikov, Olivier Rivard, Matthew S. Ream, Alexander G. Reed, Katya V. Ribarova, Francesco Rigamonti, Nita Robu, Ricardo Rodriguez Iglesias, Marcos Rosario Dabarosa, Gary Rose, Megan Siebel Rocker, Indrani Rochaudhry, Ryan Michael Rudnitsky, Timothy Irving Ruff, Ravi Rupani, David Sakon, Wirakorn Sitip, Rochelle Elizabeth Salimi, Kaushik Samanta, Dharmesh C. Sanghavi, Nagarajan Shankaranaran, Piyush Sarogi, Satyajit Sarma, Roman Schwartz, Tariq Sikkett, Alexis Sepulveda Flores, Danilo Chipuela Sessa Jr., Vinod Dataram Shanai, Tushar Avanesh Sitaji, Mohammed Hamid Siddiqui, Guillermo Silverstein, Marcos Montefusco Silva, Wendy Wei Lin Sim, Gordon Christopher Smith, Sammy Sohn, Yogesh Kumar Navanchandra Solanki, Etera Soldi, Wang Song, Pascal Pierre Sudri, Venkatragavan Srinivasan, Paula L. Strozak, Shubin Shui, John Howard Suckers, Ryan William Supple, Benjamin Julius Swartz, Samar Tadras, Sutomu Takada, Ani Kareen Tan, Bi Ying Tan, Oleg Turanenko, Charles William Teal Jr., Alexander Y. Terletsky, Jared Nelson Thorpe, Laurence Tragachnik, Ifeong Asukwo Usan, Mikhail Uvarov, Jonathan David Vanderplas, Satish Reddy Vanga, Guy Van Neck, Corrine Van Vliet Vroveandivi, Eric Vaughn, Anthony T. Walker, Regina Lois Wan, Mark Warman, Alicia Ann Washington, Joseph Thomas Wicklander, Surath Lasantha Wijitunga, Ryan Geary Wolf, Jun Shan Wong, Michael Todd Wheeler, Byong Zhu, Hervé Atura Yao, Tensu Yi, Chikong Yoon, Ahmad Zubey Zahad, Mihail Javrankov, Ruman Zakovsky, Jan Zelinsky, Jasmine Zukanovich, Joseph Zarenko.
The Dean of the Divinity School will now present candidates for the degree of Master of Arts in Programs in the Divinity School.
Mr. President, these students have completed a program of studies prescribed by the faculty of the Divinity School for foundational education in the academic study of religion. I have the honor to present them as candidates for the degree of Master of Arts.
You have successfully completed a program of advanced study in divinity, and by virtue of the authority delegated to me, I confer upon you the degree of Master of Arts, and I express the hope that your learning will lead you to advanced knowledge in or enrich the practice of your chosen field.
Elizabeth Kendig. Clara Hope Mitchell. Therese Allen Nelson.
The Dean of the Irving B. Harris Graduate School of Public Policy Studies will now present a candidate for the degree of Master of Public Policy in programs in the Harris School.
Mr. President, this student has completed the course of professional study prescribed by the faculty of the Irving B. Harris Graduate School of Public Policy Studies. I have the honor to present her as a candidate for the degree of Master of Public Policy.
By virtue of the authority delegated to me, I confer upon you the degree of Master of Public Policy, and I express the hope that your work will guide public policy toward the enhancement of the common good.
Alice J. McLean.
The Associate Dean of the Law School will now present a candidate for the degree of Doctor of Jurisprudence in programs in the law school.
Mr. President, this student has completed with distinction a program of advanced study prescribed by the faculty of the law school and has submitted a dissertation which is an original contribution to legal knowledge. I have the honor to present him as a candidate for the degree of Doctor of Jurisprudence.
You have successfully completed a program of advanced study in law, and by virtue of the authority delegated to me, I confer upon you the degree of Doctor of Jurisprudence, and I welcome you to this ancient and honorable company of scholars.
Gilberto Hernandez Asguera.
Please stand for the singing of the university's alma mater.
This is a special day for all of you upon whom I've just conferred a degree, and it is a special day for the family members and friends who may be here to join you. It marks the completion of your study, or at least one phase of that study, a path that I trust has been challenging. I hope that you are enjoying this moment of celebration and perhaps moment of reflection that this convocation affords. You are now all graduates of the University of Chicago. Because of your achievements that we celebrate today with your family and friends, each of you will always be connected to the University of Chicago, a connection that I hope that you and we will foster for many years. The University of Chicago is an institution driven from its inception by an idea that one could create and continuously renew a university focused on rigorous, intense inquiry and analysis. The university, through its work every day, expresses the view that clarity derives from the clash of ideas, the challenge of assumptions, and the willingness to accept answers only when they meet the tests of argument. We seek understanding that is complex, expandable, and fluid, rather than simple and rigid, an understanding that reflects analysis rather than ideology, that accepts complexity over the comfort of simplicity, that seeks to delineate both the power and the limitations of argument, and an understanding always ready to incorporate new data which can emerge and which in fact must be sought. We believe that the best education, the most empowering education, and the most powerful learning take place in the environment of constant challenge that is implicit in this culture of rigorous inquiry, and that this culture is responsible for producing ideas of power and importance to humankind. This focus on rigorous inquiry has defined the University of Chicago, its research and its education at all levels since its beginning, and it continues to do so today. The university and its culture are renewed every day by the work of its faculty, students, and staff. And while it is natural to focus on your own achievements today and what they mean for your own future, you can also take great satisfaction in your contribution to the ongoing renewal of your university, the University of Chicago. I know that as graduates of this university in the coming years, you will be called upon to act, to speak, and to lead. And like so many University of Chicago graduates who have come before you, you will approach this challenge of leadership empowered by your University of Chicago education. The power of analysis and ideas that you have experienced here and that are now your own will serve you wherever your path takes you and whatever challenges you confront. Each of you who received a degree today has received help and support from parents, family, spouses, partners, children, friends, mentors, or university faculty and staff. And while it is your achievements that we mark today, all of these supporters can rightly take great pride in your accomplishment. And so to all degree recipients, please accept my congratulations for all that you have achieved. I wish you all good fortune and happiness in the years ahead. Enjoy your coming adventures wherever they may lead you.
This now concludes the 518th Convocation of the University of Chicago. Crescat scientia, vita escolator, let knowledge grow from more to more, and so be human life enriched.